Hey everyone, Joe Waxman here. Uh, I haven't made a video in a while, mostly because I've been working, but also because, um, yeah, I mean, the news of my father dying has kind of got me thinking about a lot of things and has marked a sort of turning point, for me in many ways. Um, in this video, I want to talk about health, my health and my diet and my lifestyle and what I've come to learn over the years and my reflections upon my father dying and the root causes behind that. And so I want to talk about all of that. It's something that I've spent a long time studying, and I've studied it from different angles. I've studied it from the macrobiotic energetic approach and just to briefly macrobiotic approach to health and diet is an energetic basis, which I touched on last time. It deals with yin and yang dialectics and five transformations, and it tries to understand the whole, the part from the whole, right? From the center. Then we look at all the different parts, and we can sort of try and figure out what things are. And for instance, like we would look at something like sugar and say, well, that's yin because it's expansive, right? Dilates, turns to water, um, versus like salt, which we'd say is yang, right? It's all relative to us as the center, as the consumer, right? Yin and yang are always relative, so they're always pairs, right? It's not just one or the other, but that's how we would, instead of like going into the laboratory and testing, oh, what effects does salt have? Oh, what effects does sugar have? And then we'll figure it out, like, and then we could, make a list of all the things that sugar does, all the things that salt does. From a macrobiotic perspective, we would try and understand the energy behind it and then categorize it like that. And it's extremely useful and valuable, right? And I studied that for my whole life, literally, like 46 years I've been studying that. So when I'm talking about health, it's not with no basis, right? And then from the other side, I also study a lot of nutrition, especially modern nutrition. There's just all this cutting edge science coming out about what we know about with the gut microbiome and how everything is formed in the gut, all health and disease is formed in the gut. Same idea that macrobiotics has had for decades, that the food we eat is the primary driver of our health. I mean, there's other factors as well, activity, any other chemicals that we might be coming in contact with, and our mental emotional state as well, our attitudes and our mental health and how we take care of that. Yeah. So, and then the other thing, people are wearing glucose monitors these days, so they're able to understand how carbohydrates are affecting their blood sugar. And blood sugar spikes are a major driver of disease. And that's something that we haven't known, and that we're just even modern, nutritional science is just starting to realize that, unless you are taking care to avoid the blood sugar spike from carbohydrates, it's a problem, right? And it's a problem whether you're eating, Oreo cookies and Coca-Cola or French fries or a bowl of brown rice. If you're eating a bowl of brown rice by itself, it's probably going to spike your blood sugar and therefore cause disease. Like, you're not safe just because you're eating whole grain, right? And this is something that we haven't known, that we haven't really been aware of in macrobiotics. So this brings me to my first topic: grains, grain products, starchy vegetables. All right, so this is really huge point that needs to be driven home. somebody's just texting me. Grains need to be understood. Grain products, carbohydrates need to be understood. Whether you're talking about macrobiotics or just in general. We've had this idea for a long time that whole grains are necessary and are for health, and that they're very important. The grains are good. I mean, I'm not going to knock grains, but we have to understand them much better than we do. And if you look back in traditional society, these were poor people who needed sustenance, they needed energy, they were physically active all day, they did not have a lot of fat or animal food because it's much harder to come by in the old days. So they had grains, they needed grains. Grains were an essential part of pretty much every civilization because they could farm grains, therefore they could remain stable. They didn't have to live nomadic lifestyle. They could get a steady supply of energy, glucose for the brain. The body needs glucose. I'm not saying we don't need grains or carbohydrates. We do, but we have to in limited amounts. We have to understand them better. So for traditional people, yeah, we look back and we say, well, they ate grains. Okay, we'll just keep eating. Well, no, it's not good enough. Okay, why? Because first of all, the modern sedentary lifestyle is a huge issue, right? And then in the health food community, there's like, grain crazy, and then you're eating grains all the time and just sitting there getting all like hyper intellectual about the order of the universe or life or philosophy or whatever, and they think they're doing great things when they're making themselves sick. They're feeding cancer. Cancer feeds on glucose. This is important, and there's an absolute epidemic of cancer in macrobiotics, and there's an absolute obsession with carbohydrates, which turn to glucose. Therefore, I mean, it's just a one-on-one connection, right? It's as simple as can be. Grains feed cancer. This is not like weird or out of the blue. Like, it's just glucose, right? You're talking about sugar, you're talking about pasta, bread, rice, all of it. I mean, when you're not exhausting, and then none of these long time like, especially in the macrobiotic community, activity was downplayed. Like, oh, we don't need to, we'll just sit there and smoke our cigarettes. Okay, well, cigarettes got bad rap. Fine, quit cigarettes, sit there and like be all hyper intellectual, eating your grain. That's going to cause cancer because cancer feeds on glucose, right? And if you have, we all have cancer growing in our cells. That's important to realize, because cancer is just very easy to start. Like, you get a cancerous cell, your body clears it out if it's healthy. But if you're constantly spiking your blood sugar, especially as you get older, your immunity is dropping, the glucose is feeding the cancer, it's growing, right? People are like, oh, he smoked, that's why. It's not why. It's not why. Glucose feeds cancer. Without glucose, there's no cancer. And if we understood this better, then we would have realized, okay, well, we need to limit glucose, we need to limit carbohydrates, we need to go on and off periods where we're fasting from glucose so that the cancer can dry up. Whatever cancer, everyone has cancer. Let's just put it out there. Everyone has cancer. Maybe tiny little bits, but we all do. Like, you go outside, you breathe the toxic air, the heavy metals, the car pollution, pollution's everywhere. Nobody can avoid this, right? There's not a remote place. I mean, maybe there's places that are less, but everyone has little bits of cancer in them. So everyone should realize that you're either feeding your cancer or you're starving it and destroying it, right? If you're not aware of this process, that grains and carbohydrates spike blood sugar, unless you know how to avoid that, then you're going to feed the cancer, right? Especially as you get older. I mean, there are other things you can do to maybe counterbalance that, but we're just talking about grains and carbohydrates right now, right? 3 meals a day of grains, or just a bowl of, like just eating grains, but it's not safe. It's not safe at all. So can you distract? Somebody's texting me. All right, so like so I want to touch on the ways to reduce the blood sugar spike if you're going to eat grains, because grains slash carbohydrates are necessary. We need them. We need some amount of them, especially for good digestion. And the cells in our body, especially our brain, feeds on glucose. It's not the only source of fuel, but it is one of them. So we do need some of them, right? So I'm not trying to demonize all grains and carb, like, oh, we just need to be all keto, no. We need balance, right? Balance is essential, it's integral into health. And so it's important to include some grains, and I'll get into the details and nitty-gritty, but just in general, how to balance blood sugar. So the first thing that I've learned is all right, so you can start with one trick is take a shot of apple cider vinegar, or any good quality vinegar that's not sugar, that's not like really like syrupy balsamic vinegar. No, the sour vinegars, like good quality apple cider vinegar, or good quality brown rice vinegar, or any other kind of good quality vinegar that's not sugary or sweet. Red wine vinegar. I particularly like apple cider vinegar these days, and mix it with some water. You just take like a dash, like a maybe teaspoon, tablespoon. I don't measure. I just pour a little bit in a cup, add some water, and drink it down first thing before I'm eating a meal of grain, right? That's going to blunt the blood sugar effect. Next thing, start with vegetables. And a lot of times you get like, if you go out to a restaurant, you get vegetable appetizer, salad with vinegar. The vinegar plus the vegetables is really important to fill your belly with. Because if you're going to eat grain, you want to start with something that is non-carbohydrate, because that's going to blunt the blood sugar effect. You just eat a piece of bread in the beginning, you're going to spike your blood sugar, you're going to damage your health, you're going to feed the cancer, you're going to destroy your immunity, right? You do that over time, you're looking at an early death, right? Save the bread for after the vegetables. Save the pasta, save the rice for after the vegetables. Vegetables first, okay? Then when you eat your grain, do not eat plain grain. Do not eat plain bread. Do not eat plain rice. Do not eat plain pasta. Eat it with some fats. Eat it with some vegetables. Eat it with some other, like, good quality, like, I don't know, beans or nuts or seeds or whatever, anything, especially fats, that will blunt the blood sugar effect. Don't just eat a plain piece of bread. Eat it with something fatty on top. If you eat dairy, then butter or cream cheese or whatever. Like, make sure it's good quality. If you don't, then I want to say, like, tahini is good. Not peanut butter, because we'll get to that. Peanuts have a lot of lectins that, a lot of people have peanut allergies. Even if you don't have a peanut allergy, don't think peanuts are safe. Okay, this is something we have to pay more attention to, the details as far as which nuts and seeds and grains, beans are safe to eat, and how much, and what ways to prepare them, right? Especially when we're looking at improving our health. All these things are important, right? Bread with olive oil, that's a much better way to eat bread. Bread with olive oil and vinegar, right? Than plain bread, plus it's refined carbs, right? So whole grain is going to be better than refined when we're talking about blood sugar. There are other factors, because the fiber and the unoxidized grain is going to be much slower digesting, right? Then you're eating your grain with other things, like pasta and sauce, rice with, eat it with the, curry or whatever, another dish, or put some vinegar and oil in there, like, how they do sushi rice with vinegar, not minus the sugar. You can vinegar your rice if you want to do that right in the beginning, or you can do vinegar and oil, whatever, just not plain, right? And then, so vegetables, not plain grain, right? And then you finish with activity, right? You thought I was going to say dessert. No, you can skip the dessert. That's perfectly normal to skip dessert. Dessert should not be a regular thing. It should not be a habit. And if you eat well, then you're not going to crave dessert, especially if you're eating enough good quality oils and fats. We need that. We need that because those are the two fuels. But activity right after the meal is very important, especially a grain meal, because then you're going to flatten the curve, right? Not 3 days to flatten the curve, a walk to flatten the curve. You need to exhaust the blood glucose in your blood. Otherwise, you get that blood sugar spike. You get all drowsy, food coma. You don't want to do anything. That's not a good sign. You should not feel tired after your meals. If you have that, that's the problem. You're going towards disease, not health, right? If you eat and then you want to take a nap, you're going towards disease. Sure sign you're getting sick, right? So go for a walk, go for a good walk, like till you're like, you feel like you're over that blood sugar spike and you can keep your energy up, right? So those are the things that are going to reduce the blood sugar spike. Second thing, you don't need carbohydrates at every meal. Okay, we need to just scratch that. This macrobiotic idea that you have to have a grain at every meal, dead in the water. If you want to die young from cancer, okay, fine, really. But I don't, there's no reason to have these religious dogma, fundamentalists or like diehard macros who just bow down to the grain altar. I mean, that's ridiculous. Like, that's the reason traditional people needed grain, like I already said, is because they were poor and fat and animal food were hard to come by. They needed an efficient energy source, and it was grain, right? That didn't run away from them. Animals are hard to catch, who would have thought? Animals in the wild don't want to be caught. Grain is stationary, right? So you start with grain, you grow grain, then you can start farming animals, and you can build, and then eventually fat, oils, processing, all the modern conveniences become more readily available. We don't need to rely so heavily on grains, plus activity and lifestyle become more sedentary, and therefore grain becomes a problem. Carbohydrates become a problem for sedentary people. Carbohydrates are a problem for sedentary lifestyles. That causes cancer. It's too much glucose. You're messing with the blood sugar. You're not able to process all that carbohydrates. You need to minimize it. Like have grain, limit your grain to 1 meal per day, right? Limit your carbs to 1 meal per day. That's enough. It'll do you good. And just a little bit more about the carbohydrate versus fat burning. The effect on consciousness, because remember, food affects our gut microbiome. The gut microbiome influences our thinking and our emotions and our everything, right? We knew this in macrobiotics a long time ago, but I'm just translating it into modern nutritional theories so you guys who don't understand energetics can follow along, right? If you understand food energetics, you don't need to know that it's influencing the gut microbiome, which it is. That's the bridge. That's the connection between the two sides. We knew decades ago that food influences the mind, but you would have told anyone, they would be like, nonsense. Food doesn't have any. Now we know it does, because they're like, oh, this great revelation, modern nutrition science figured this out. Well, we knew way ahead. So I mean, I'm not trying to throw the baby out with the bathwater. There's much good that came from the macrobiotic movement. We spearheaded the whole natural health foods movement. My father started the first health food store in Philadelphia scene, which is still there today. Many of the first health food stores were started by macrobiotic people. So macrobiotics did do a wonderful service, but there's a lot of room for improvement, obviously. But there's a lot of room for improvement in all areas, nutrition going back, to like 20, 30, 40 years ago was sorely lacking in many areas. And so was regular science. I mean, everything grows and evolves and everything improves. So it's on par. Macrobiotics is on par with everything else. We definitely have a long way to go, but one step at a time. Any case, the effect of grain is very heady, very intellectual, hyper intellectual, right? You get a bunch of macros in a room and they're going to start arguing over philosophy, right? Over energetics, over this, that, with the other, whatever. They're going to argue over everything. It's just like, it's just a given. It's automatic, right? And anyone who has a grain heavy diet is going to be very fiery, very passionate, and very intellectual. That's what grain carbohydrates does. Why? Because carbohydrates burn. They burn quickly and they create a spike. So you get this intense, jagged, up and down curve, like a mountain range. That's the energetic pattern of grains, of carbohydrates. I just need to focus the camera again. It gets all fuzzy sometimes. It gets out of focus. And it bothers me. There we go. All right. So that's the trajectory of grain, this up and down. It's very intense grain. And it creates the real intensity. It creates a lot of cravings. You need to eat, like when you're just burning carbohydrates and you have a low fat diet, it's like you burn your carbs, it's very, very intense, you're all heady, intellectual, and you're like, my ideas are right, and you're willing to argue over it, right? Like I've experienced that for decades. It was my whole life, and it was the same for everyone else who was in the same path. This heady fire, intellectual fire going on. And then you get very angry, like you need to eat, like low blood sugar, right? Because when you're dependent on blood sugar, it's this up, down. When it's up, you're just arguing, and then when it's down, you're like, like well, you'd probably be arguing on both sides, but you're more angry when it's down. And you need to eat, right? Like you have to eat when your blood sugar's low. And that's not a healthy, and then you get stressed out. There's a lot of stress involved with the carbohydrate paradigm. Heat and stress and intensity, and it's very aggro, and it's like, you do that too long and you start becoming kind of miserable. I really stopped liking people, and I wasn't happy, and I was not that great to be around, and it really detracted from my life. It just started to weigh heavy, so heavy, until I finally understood, like, there's another way. The other way is fat burning. Our human body is designed to burn carbohydrates on the one hand and fat on the other. And we can vacillate between these two sides, and they both have benefits. Fat burning is incredibly healthy. If we go into ketosis, that's incredibly healthy for us in many ways. Number one, we're starving cancer because cancer feeds on glucose, right? No glucose, cancer starves, cancer dies. There's many wonderful mechanisms that happen when you go into fat burning mode. Intellectually, consciously, I can say that the influence of burning fat over carbs is that it's much cooler, calmer, and detached. You're dispassionate. You don't care. Like it's fine. And like, I mean, for myself, I'm like way friendlier. I like people way more. I'm way more jovial and happy and chatty, and just be like, yeah, hey man, cool, whatever. Like, I'm not gonna argue about anything, like you believe what you believe, that's fine, whatever. And so there's that level, there's that. It's very wonderful. And I'm like, my satiation is like 1,000 times like I'm so much more satisfied deep inside. Like, oh my God, I can like nourish myself with like rich foods that I wouldn't have eaten otherwise. It feels so good. And I'm just like, and the hunger levels just way down. And my contentment, my peace, my relaxedness is just way up. Grain is really intense, right? It's good for creating an intellectual environment where you develop your thinking. I'm not trying to say that it's bad or anything like that. I'm saying it's one-sided and it has its use, but it's also can be detrimental if you don't know how to use it. If you're spiking your blood sugar constantly, you're thinking, oh, grain is safe, whole grain, just eat tons of whole grain. Wrong. It's wrong. It's bad. That will kill you, right? That will destroy your health. When you don't know how to eat it, when you're spiking your blood sugar, when you think, grain is like this special food for humanity, and the macros do think that, right? I thought that. So like, I'm criticizing myself too, but I've come to realize, no, we need this balance. We need to vacillate between fat burning and carbohydrate burning. It's extremely important, right? And it's not just like some people are like, oh, I'm too skinny, therefore I have to eat my grains. No, it's not about, you can still gain weight when you're not eating carbs or grains, right? You just eat more fat. That's it. It's not about that. It's about balancing an important paradigm or health dynamic within our system, like a metabolism. Metabolic flexibility is what it's called, right? And I'm not just, and it works both ways. Like I don't think it's healthy in my opinion, my view, my experience, which I haven't been in the whole ketosis thing for that long. Like I'm not in ketosis right now. Like I go back and forth is what I'm trying to say, because I experienced some negativity, like my digestion, like I would get these intense pains when I'd be in ketosis for too long, constipation, poor sleep. Carbohydrates, and other people say this too, like it's necessary, it's important, and it's healthy to eat some carbohydrates, to eat some grain. You just need to watch how much you're eating, and you need to make sure you're balancing the blood sugar spikes. Blood sugar spikes. Blood sugar spikes. That is so important, right? So for me, what I do, just to give a brief overview, I incorporate intermittent fasting. So I don't eat breakfast, right? That's my normal routine. No breakfast, none, right? That way, so I finish dinner, like I try and have an early dinner. I'm not one of these late dinner people. I don't like that, because then you have to stay up later, right? 3 hours minimum after you eat, stay up, right? So I cut off like 6, I try and aim for like 6 o'clock done eating, right? But maybe for some people it's 6:30, right? If it's 7, then you're gonna have to stay up till 10, right? But you cut it off, right? No food after a certain point. Then 12 hours later, you're starting to fast. You're starting to go into ketosis. You're starting to go into autophagy, which means your body's consuming dead debris and weak cells and whatnot. That's healthy. It's a very healthy. And then the longer you can sustain that, the better. That's intermittent fasting. So if you can go till lunch, right, noon, then that's what? That's let's say for me, like 6 to 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That's 6 extra. So that's 18 hours. 18-hour fast. That's not bad, right? Regularly. Then sometimes you can just do 1 meal a day. And they say, like, don't skip meals. Well, you know what? Actually, I think it's okay if you're doing it like if that's part of your plan, right? If it's part of your normal routine. If it's just willy-nilly and you're not paying attention, and you're just like doing it randomly, I don't think so. But if it's part of your routine, where it's like, okay, sometimes I'm going to have lunch and dinner, sometimes I'm just going to have dinner. Or if it happens, sometimes you just have lunch and no dinner. You skip dinner. But if it's part of your normal routine, I think it's okay, right? At least it works for me. And the way to judge is if you feel really satisfied during the daytime, like you're just so contented from your normal routine, your normal diet, that you don't need to eat lunch. You feel like, I'm good. That's a good indication that it's okay. However, if you're really hungry, you're pain, and you're just like, oh, I should skip lunch, probably not, right? Like that's how you want to. Don't be dogmatic about it. Like, follow your body, listen to what your body needs. If your body's telling you need to eat, it's probably better to eat. If your body's telling you you're really satisfied, you can get away with like maybe some coffee or tea with a little MCT oil or butter in it, which I'll talk about. That's fine too. You know, whatever works for you, right? But it's important to have periods where you're not eating. Constant eating is bad. Constant eating will lead to deterioration. You need this polarity, right? Polarity is really important. And I'm trying to, and one of the things that has come to me is this idea of binaries. And so I'm calling my diet the binary diet. It's not fully developed yet, but I'm just I just want to give it a name and give it a paradigm to work with. Balancing binaries, because everyone gets stuck on one side or the other. Like, I'm team keto, I am team carbohydrate, whole grain, I'm team macro, I'm team vegan, I'm team carnivore, I'm team, get over your teams, right? All the different sides need to be represented. The more the better, right? Especially like when we're talking about all good things. So anyway, don't get stuck in one side or the other. You need to vacillate. You need to move. Go back and forth, right? Life is about opposites, day and night. Man, woman, yin, yang, hot, cold, strong, weak, left, right, up, down. There's so many different polarities, right? And this is not about the polarities. We can get into all the different polarities. This is mainly just about general overview. I'm going to make more videos about health because that's what's on my mind right now. I'm taking a little hiatus from astrology. I just have to put it down for the moment. It is what it is. Life is calling its own what it wants, and it works through all of us, and I have to listen. So, all right. So we need to switch between carbohydrate burning and fat burning. This is our human body. Like, don't get stuck in ideology. Our human body is designed this way. Listen to your body. Your body can do two things. It can burn carbs, it can burn fat. Go back and forth. They both have their benefits, right? I had some millet last night. So let's talk about grains. Millet is one of the best grains, if you're going to eat whole grains, to eat because it has no lectins. Now, lectins are a protein that's found mainly in vegetables that is hard to digest. It's very hard on digestion. And the reason that plants have these so-called anti-nutrients is because they don't want to be eaten, right? And so they have different plant defenses. Like, animals can run away. Plants have chemicals that can be harmful to us. So lectins are one of the things in grains, beans, nuts, and seeds, and certain vegetables that are very hard to digest, and they cause leaky gut, meaning that the proteins, these plant proteins, go into our blood circulation, into our blood undigested, and cause inflammation, right? So millet has no lectins. So you can soak millet. I recommend soaking all grains, beans, nuts, and seeds, except for the seeds that you're going to roast. But you can soak millet for 24 hours, cook it for 20 minutes or however long. It's really good with sweet vegetables. I particularly like sweet potato, but any sweet vegetable like onion, carrot, parsnip, cauliflower, that's all fine. That's a good grain to eat if you're going to eat whole grain. Rice is still okay to eat. How you prepare rice? Soak it. I think the longer you soak it, the better. minimum 24 hours. But actually, I think it's probably better if you bring it to like even just like barely sprouting. So like soak for 24 hours, and then if you have a sprouting can, take it out of the water, put it in the sprouting can, rinse it. Don't save the soak water. You don't need to, especially with arsenic. Just it's not necessary. Sprout it for 24 hours. Like do soak 24 hours, sprout for 24 hours in the jar. Buy a seeding jar. It's great for many things. You know, with the mesh lid, and then drain it, and because you don't want it soaking too long, because then it gets funky, right? Then you add water back, cook it with kombu seaweed. Kombu seaweed is one of the things that will help the gut lining against any lectins, and then pressure cook it. This is one of the things that we George Sawa taught in early macrobiotics. Pressure cooked brown rice, which we sort of went away from because everyone was getting too young, but actually it's actually way better because it destroys the lectins, right? So pressure cook your brown rice with kombu. That's going to be the most digestible. You know, you bring it, you develop the sprouts as much as possible, right? 48 hours, pressure cooked with kombu, and then just, you know, eat like don't overdo it. Don't overdo it. Eat it with other things. You don't need a bowl of brown rice. You know, you can put stuff on top of it. You can make a nice curry or sauce or whatever vegetable. You can put some fat in it, some oil, olive oil, sesame oil, some vinegar in there, right? Do it up. Make it nice. Make a nice rice salad, however you want. Just not plain rice, right? You can still do that, okay? Chewing it helps, like well-chewed grain, and then go for a walk right after, right? That's all fine. What else? Sourdough bread, real good sourdough, because the sourdough fermentation is going to help digest the wheat. Wheat's not digestible in any other way. Like you can't just eat whole wheat. I don't care. Like you soak it, whatever. That's going to be a problem, right? Don't eat whole wheat. You can eat whole wheat flour, especially if sourdough. White anything, minimize, right? Special occasions, do it up like with the, you know, like you want to go to Italian meal, you know, you have like your nice oily sauce, and then go for a walk right afterwards, right? And then try and do the other things like vinegar, salad in the beginning, right? You don't want to you know, be overly restrictive, but if you eat healthy normally, then you can get away with it. Plus, you're not creating all this insulin insensitivity in your body. If you're constantly spiking your blood sugar, you're probably insulin resistant, right? And therefore pre-diabetic, even if you're thin. That's still possible, right? When you go off carbs, when you vacillate, when you go into like fat burning mode, then you're becoming insulin sensitive, and that's really important. That means that when you eat carbohydrates, you're going to be able to balance it out much quicker, and you're gonna reduce that spike naturally on your own, normally within your own body, you know, in a healthy way. So yeah, that's great. And sugar, no, obviously, avoid as much as possible. It's not really healthy. I mean, some people think they can get away with it because they think they're healthy, they imagine they're healthy. Probably not. Avoid it as much as possible. Fruit has fructose, good in the summer, not good all year round. People think, you know, they can just eat fruit all year round, it's healthy. No, just because you see it in the supermarket doesn't make it healthy. It's not. It actually signals the body to put on weight. So if you want to gain weight, it's not really healthy, but you know, you got fruit, and fruit juice, no. Fruit juice is not healthy. It's not. So, you know, fruit in season, fine. Fruit out of season, avoid, right? Beans have lectins too. So soak all your beans minimum 24 hours, right? Then pressure cook them with kombu. If you pressure cook them well with kombu, like 40 minutes, 45 minutes, pressure cook, right? Not boil, pressure cook with kombu seaweed, kelp seaweed. That the kelp seaweed is extremely high in glutamate. Glutamate helps repair the gut lining, so that way you're balancing it out, right? The lectins will damage the gut lining. The glutamate, the kombu will help repair the gut lining. So that's how you can eat beans. And beans are great. They're a great source of vegetable protein, fiber, vitamins, minerals, all that. Just prepare them well. Have to soak them. You must soak them. You must pressure cook them with comfort, right? Great source of protein. Vegetables, so many good vegetables. Now there's a few things in vegetables to be aware of: lectins and oxalic acid, right? So the oxalic acid is an acid that will deplete, it binds with calcium, I think mainly, and will form kidney stones and deplete you of your calcium, right? Mainly found in spinach. Don't eat raw spinach. The way they eat spinach in India is they boil it and then they cook it with some dairy to balance out the oxalic acid, right? The dairy is having calcium, oxalic acid depletes calcium, so it's balanced, right? If you're willing to do that, okay, fine. Otherwise, if you're not going to do it right, don't do it. Don't eat raw spinach at all. It will give you kidney stones. The other foods that are high in oxalic acid are chard. Let's see, Swiss chard, spinach, beet greens. There's kale and collards also. So you don't eat raw kale and collards at all, right? And if you cook them, especially cook them with oil and other like if you eat dairy, that's fine. Maybe tofu is okay. Tofu does have glutamate, even though it has some lectins and it has calcium. Wakame seaweed would be a good source for those who like seaweed, but you need something in there to balance out. It has lower levels than spinach. Spinach has way more. Purslane also has oxalic acid, right? So be careful of oxalic acid, right? Now, if you want to blanch your kale and then saute it with like wakame or tofu or dairy, if you eat dairy, that'll be good. All right. Otherwise, be careful. No kale salad. No kale salad. All right. Lectins are found in nightshades, and that's one of the reasons they say deadly nightshades. So the way to do nightshades, tomatoes and peppers and potatoes, you have to peel them. So potatoes, obviously you peel, not sweet potatoes, regular potatoes. Potatoes you peel and then cook well. Tomatoes you can boil, then peel, then seed them. It's also in the seeds. So the seeds and the peels. Peppers, roast them. In Mexico and Latin America, they always have the chili roast, where they roast the peppers. You peel all the peels, then you seed them. Then you can use them, right? Otherwise, don't use them. So don't make tomato sauce that's not peeled and seeded, and don't eat potatoes with the skins, right? If you want good gut health and good health in general, right? I'm talking about ideal. I'm not talking about the exception, right? I'm talking about the normal everyday, right? Nuts and seeds. Many nuts and seeds have lectins. So like a lot of this is new discovery because this nutritional science wasn't available a long time ago, so we didn't know. So forgive yourself, but don't be lazy. Get on top of it now. Sunflower seeds, pumpkin seeds have lectins. I mean, I love them. I've eaten tons of them, and I probably didn't do myself any favors. Not good for the gut health. So avoid them, especially if you have any sort of digestive issues and you're trying to improve your health. Just we're talking about regular consumption. Don't eat them regularly, right? Peanuts. Peanuts are not a nut, they're a legume. Tons of lectins. People have peanut allergies. So peanuts, peanut butter, peanut oil, just not a regular food. I've eaten tons of it. Not good. Not healthy, right? Avoid it. Avoid peanut butter. Avoid peanuts. Almonds. You have to skin them. You have to soak them and skin them. The skins have tons of phytates in them. And almonds do have some lectins, so eat moderately. They're very high in magnesium. So again, probably soak, peel, and then cook. Cooking destroys the lectin. So like, you want the best way? That's the best way, right? What else? What are some safe nuts? Macadamia nuts, walnuts, pistachios. Those three are great, right? Even pecans have like, so don't eat raw pecans. I think probably roasted or cooked, they're okay. But so yeah, macadamia, pistachio, walnut, flax seeds, sesame seeds, these are all good, right? You can eat these. What else? Brazil nuts have an insane amount of selenium, which is extremely important and extremely hard to come by. So you can't eat too much Brazil nuts, but like 2 to 3 a day is fine and healthy and necessary even. Like, so eat that. And this whole idea of like macrobiotic, like, oh, don't eat from like the South, that only, in the way I see it, it only works with perishable food items. If something is non-perishable and it's from South America, it's from the South, it's from tropical, it's okay because we're human beings. We're not like, you got to look at like the amount of energy that it takes to get, like, if you're taking a banana from the tropics and bringing it up north, especially like up Alaska or like Scandinavia or wherever, like really Canada, anywhere far up north, that's unnatural because of the amount of energy that it takes. And you're taking a perishable food item, rushing it up north where it doesn't grow, it can't grow, and it's going to spoil quickly. Like, don't eat perishable food items far away from their origin, right? But if it's something storable, like nuts and seeds, dried foods, that's okay. You can carry it by horseback across thousands of miles. It'll be fine, right? That's something they could have done 2,000 years ago, right? You could have taken storable food items from the South, brought them up north, and they would have been perfectly fine, and that's okay. Trade routes allow for that, right? So anything that's non-perishable, it's okay from the South, right? If it's perishable, avoid. Okay, that's that. So Brazil nuts are fine, 2 to 3 a day. What else? I can't think of anything else with the seeds and nuts. Be careful of roasting. Don't burn. If you're roasting your seeds and nuts, do not burn them. That will, again, destroy the fats, oxidize the fats, and make them carcinogenic, right? Okay. Make sure your beans are well cooked. Unwell cooked beans are a disaster. They will destroy your gut health, destroy your health in general. Pickles and fermented foods, so important every single day, right? Good quality, real, live, active. Best is to make it home. If you can't make it at home, try and get ones that are alive, not pasteurized, right? And if they have been pasteurized and that's all you can get, at least make sure that they at least were at some point fermented. There are so-called pickles which are not even fermented at all. They're just like doused in vinegar and mimic the taste, I guess, of pickles. Still not terrible, but not really a real pickle. Kimchi and sauerkraut are the main ones as far as pickles are concerned, but a lot of Japanese food products, miso, shoyu, tempeh, natto. Natto is a superfood. I love it. I eat it all the time. Extremely high in vitamin K2, which is excellent for the bones and the arteries, and it has other excellent effects for like spike protein, getting rid of the spike protein, and, with the whole COVID nonsense, ridiculousness. A good quality dairy, if you're willing to eat good quality dairy, like grass-fed. The best fermented dairy is goat or sheep milk, kefir, yogurt. If it's good quality, like cultured cottage cheese, alive, or cheese, right? Just regular cheese, like goat and sheep, because they have medium chain triglycerides. Medium chain triglycerides are a type of fat that's very easily converted into energy into our body and produces ketones and has all sorts of health-giving benefits and does not store as fat in the body. right? Too much will, but it's very easily, it just gives you energy, gives you, and so, yeah, we have to get over this idea that animal food is unhealthy and that animal food is suffering. No, it's not true, right? This vegan ideology that all animal food is bad is wrong. It's just wrong. I mean, it's just naive and childish and stupid. And so, like, you know, if you're a vegan, you probably won't like me because I'm just not tolerant of veganism. As an ideology, it just sucks. Vegan ideology is terrible. And I'm not talking about going periodically removing all animal foods for whatever reason. That's different than vegan ideology, right? There are people who, for their health or for spiritual reasons, temporarily want to not eat animal food, but it's just not a sustainable way for, like, it's not healthy. There are zero traditional cultures that did this ever, period. I mean, this is not arguable. There's none. There's no culture that was vegan. There's no vegan animals, by the way, either. Every single animal on the planet eats some amount of animal food, whether it's unintentionally or intentionally. Herbivorous animals eat bugs. Sorry, hate to break it to you, but about 5% of their diet is bugs, right? And they're also eating dirt, which has a lot of B12 and other nutrients, microbes. And rabbits and deer have been known to scavenge on fresh kills that they found, carcasses, right? They're not vegan. They're not trying to be vegan. Monkeys, apes, they all eat animal food, right? They all do. Even small, like gorillas, you know, like they're going to be eating some bugs because they're not washing their food, right? They all eat bugs. They all eat animal food. So veganism is down. It's not a good, it's not healthy. It's not healthy. We need animal food for our health. You know, even just energetically. So anyway, yeah, good quality, especially sheep and goat milk dairy is fine. Now, how much you want to eat it, that's up to you. But the fermented, especially for the fermented goat and sheep milk dairy, that's great for the gut health. But also they say like A2 protein milk fermented it is like, so if you can get some A2 yogurt, that's probably okay, right? Because it has a different protein, it's more digestible. Like a lot of people have lactose intolerance. That just means that there's some proteins that are very hard to digest, will be bad for your gut lining, probably cause leaky gut, so be careful of that. Oils. Now everyone's down on seed oil. Seed oils are terrible, terrible. Like generally I agree, but sesame seed oil is a seed and sesame oil is very healthy, right? So when they say seed oil, just make a mental note. Sesame oil is good. Olive oil is good, right? Good quality butter is fun. It's great. Like goat butter. I love goat butter. I mean, it's grass-fed, right? Good quality. Even like traditionally, especially in the north, they put it in their tea, not milk, right? Milk will block the polyphenols from coffee or tea. But if you put a little bit of butter in there, especially if you blend it, you can put like MCT coconut oil. MCT are the medium chain triglycerides. That's why coconut oil, people really do well with coconut oil because the medium chain triglycerides, it gives instant energy and you can feel it in your brain, like goes right into the passes the blood-brain barrier and gives your brain food. So, but you can buy medium chain triglyceride oil, which is refined from coconut oil. It's really, really good stuff. I like it. You don't need to overdo it, just like a small amount in your coffee or tea. You can do that or butter or both and then blend them. Really fascinating combination, but they do, that is a traditional thing, butter and tea in the northern Asian countries. It's really good, right? Yeah, so we need oil, we need good quality fats. It's absolutely essential to not become like this manic hyper intellectual arguing about everything, being like all philosophical, intellectual, and constantly like on edge and tense, and like it's not a healthy way to be. A lot of these early health food addicts, especially in the macro community, that's what they were. I was. I mean, I spent decades doing that kind of thing. Herbs and spices, so important, so important. Loaded with antioxidants and polyphenols, right? Cumin, cardamom, cloves, cinnamon, oregano, what else? Like all of them, peppers, cayenne, black pepper. They're all there's a reason. It's not just taste, it's not just sensory. They're so healthy. Like use them regularly. Don't overdo them, but use them all the time. Turmeric, right? Ginger, garlic, all the herbs and spices, they're all wonderful, right? In macrobiotics, unfortunately, we have unnecessarily criticized and demonized spices and herbs. But had we not, maybe some of the people who died of cancer would have lived longer, at least, because these antioxidants, they digest fat and proteins and cancer cells. They fight off all the oxidants that we're consuming with all the frying, which I gotta say, frying and grilling and baking and burning and roasting and toasting all needs to be anything fatty, like just do away with it for at-home regular use. Frying it, people think frying is healthy because they got away with it in the past. These are arrogant people who are probably going to die young from cancer. I'm just being literal. I'm just being factual. A lot of these people who died from cancer in the health food movement were obsessed with fried foods. Fried foods creates carcinogens. It just does. So, get away from the frying, the grilling, the baking with oil, all of that. Just cut it out of your regular daily use. That way, once in a while, when you go out with some friends and you have something fried, it's no big deal, right? You have if you're strict and disciplined with yourself at home, then you can be liberal and free on special occasions, right? You can have the fried food, you can have the pasta, you can have the bread, you can have the dessert, you can have the wine or the beer, and it'll be all right. Coffee and tea, great. I mean, I like both of them, and they're both good. Like, especially, there's so many different teas that are loaded with polyphenols and antioxidants. Green tea, all the herbal teas, especially if they're good quality and organic. Like, go to this market and look at all the different concoctions of teas that are good for, like, digestion or throat or detox or whatever. They're all healthy. They're all good. All right. Dandelion tea, all of them. Make them. Coffee is good. It's loaded with polyphenols. Get the medium roasted, not the well roasted, medium or lightly roasted, right? And what? Yeah, don't soak it too long. Get the temperatures right. Learn your temperatures. Learn how to do it properly. And you can combine it with a little butter or oil. No milk. Do not use any milk or cream or sugar in your coffee or tea. That destroys it. It's going to destroy on any health benefits. A little butter or MCT oils. Okay, blend it. Right. Good stuff. Animal food. Again, and here's another binary. Animal, vegetable. Some people want to be all carnivore. That's not good for you. That's not good for your health. It's just not. I don't care. It's not good for you. All vegetable, no animal food. That's not good for your health. We need both, right? Don't be dogmatic. The most peaceful animal food is dairy. The healthiest, arguably, is fish, right? Especially low on the food chain fish. But I just included just a little bit of everything. Like I'll do everything in moderation. Fish, dairy, good quality, everything. Some eggs, pastured, organic. I do include, when I need it, grass-fed meat. I don't eat pork. I don't eat chicken. I don't like them. and I don't think they're needed. I don't think they're healthy. Pork especially, like, no, it's just, there's nothing good about it. There's nothing good about pork. We don't need it. It's not healthy. Just scratch it. I mean, if you understand the energetics around food, then why would you want to be a pig? Why would you want to be a fat pig? Pigs make you fat. They make you gluttonous. They make you greedy, right? You want that mentality? Always, all pigs do is root around for food. That's it. That's their life. They're sticking their nose in the ground, searching for food. If that's the mentality, if that's the energy you want, and you want to get fat and be greedy, I mean, go at it. But otherwise, avoid pigs. They're dirty, they're disgusting, they're fat, and they're greedy. So there's a reason why billions, and I'm just no exaggerate, billions, multiple billions of people around the earth avoid pork for a reason, right? So include animal foods. I implore you, include some animal foods. Get over it. There are very healthy ways to raise animals, and the animals benefit from it. They're not harmed. They benefit. They're better off being in captivity because they're fed regularly. They're protected from predators. They get warmth. And I'm not talking about the abuse of factory farms where they treat the animals terribly. I'm talking about the farmers who love their animals and who treat them like their pets, right? They treat them so well, and they're better off. That's a humane thing. That's a humane. It's a viable. It's a healthy trade-off. And as far as like also vegetable agriculture, you know, when healthy animals are raised and farmed, they benefit the land. You need that to fertilize the land. It's a win-win situation. I'm telling you, it's win-win in every way. The animals win, we win, the land wins, the vegetables win. Everything wins with healthy, good quality animal food farming. Intermittent fasting is so important, right? I already talked about it, but it really needs to be, you know, whether you want to do a whole day fast, multiple day fast. I don't recommend beyond 3 days. That's a maximum that I think is healthy. But and I don't even do whole day fasts these days. Some people do, but sometimes I'll do one meal a day, and that's perfectly okay. Do that on occasion, one meal a day. And if you feel up to it, do a whole full day fast where you're not eating all day long. You just skip a day, right? But bare minimum, skip breakfast, right? Do that. Cut off dinner 6:30, and then don't eat for bare minimum 12 hours. But 18 hours would be really ideal on a regular basis. And then even 24 hours, meaning that you just have that one meal a day, right? That's extremely good. I'm just going to pause it for 1 second. Sorry about that. I had to use the bathroom. Yeah, so what was I talking about? Fasting? All right. Yeah, so what I like to do is I skip breakfast. Then if I'm having lunch I will have without, it'll be like a keto lunch, I guess you could say, like no carbohydrate, right? Like I'll do mainly vegetable. And when I say keto, it's not really like keto like you might have met, like tons of meat and I don't eat like that. No, I'll eat a lot of vegetables, beans. Beans do have some carbohydrates, so you know, but so mostly like usually like vegetables and then like oil and some kind of protein, whether it's more like vegetable or animal, depends on how I feel and my activity level and what I'm doing, right? I do landscaping these days for work. That's one of the reasons I haven't been making videos. And landscaping is extremely labor intensive. And so I feel like sometimes, I mean, you know, regularly I need animal food, you know, and I stick to more light animal foods generally speaking, but you know, I eat as I need to. Whatever I feel I need to eat, I eat. And so I'll have lunch without carbs. That way I'm still in the fat burning mode, the ketosis. It has tremendous benefits. It's extremely healthy. I'm not feeding any sort of, you know, little tiny baby cancer cells in my body. And then at dinner, I'll have some carbohydrates, right? And sometimes it'll be grain, and sometimes it will be, which I didn't talk about, you can do sweet potato. Sweet potato is a carbohydrate, it's a starch. Potato, peel it, that's a starch, carbohydrate. There are other tubers like cassava, which I've never actually eaten because I don't know how to cook it. But you can do that if you know how to eat it. Taro potato. There's other roots and vegetables like jinnenjo, also known as yama-imo in Japanese. Carrots, parsnips are very high in carbs, or higher in carbs. Sweet squashes. What else? I think all this like other sweet, like I don't know, like I mean moderately like turnip, cabbage, onion, they probably have like small amount of carbohydrates in there, right? So there are other ways to get carbohydrates. So I will sometimes do meals with no grain, just like sweet potato or potato. Like I've done that before. So yeah. And since we're talking about grain and carbs, there's one other meal that kind of can get a free pass. And that is Japanese style noodles and broth. The reason why is because even though you're eating a flour product, and I don't mean a free pass, but just generally more digestible, because kombu shiitake are extremely high in glutamic acid, and glutamic acid, also shoyu is, soy products, that helps heal the gut lining. So if on the one hand you're taking in some gluten with the noodles, which you are, which can potentially damage the gut lining, you're also healing it at the same time. So it has this dynamic polarity. Kombu shiitake, shoyu, kombu shiitake soy products, right? Soy products have glutamate, high in glutamic acid, right? So miso, shoyu, soy sauce, tempeh, natto, even tofu or soy milk, right? So tofu and soy milk you can eat occasionally. It's not something you want to eat like tons of, but you can eat, right? Especially prepared well. Miso soup also will help the gut lining, especially with wakame, because then you're adding the more glutamic acid. Seaweeds, right? Kombu and wakame both very high in glutamic acid, and if you add dried shiitake mushrooms, even more so. Mushrooms in themselves are extremely good for the digestion. So all mushrooms are really healthy for immunity and digestion. All edible mushrooms. And then the other thing, just while we're on it, bone broth, right? So this might be some people might not like this, but it is, whether you're talking about fish bone broth or beef bone broth. So then in Vietnam, they have pho, right? Which is beef bone broth with rice noodles. So then it's similar to noodles and broth because you're getting the very high glutamic acid content from the bone broth, which is going to heal any potential damage from the lectins from the rice noodles. So that's a harmonious balance there, right? So there's certain dishes that really work well together. But yeah, so that's the intermittent fasting. And then so activity is extremely important for health, right? And this was downplayed in macrobiotics, unfortunately, to its major detriment, saying that, oh, we don't really need to be physically active, just half-hour walk every day. And then they didn't even do that, or some of them, which is so unfortunate. Half-hour walk is great. It's bare bones minimum. We need some muscle training. Why? Because muscles consume fat and glucose, right? And so the more fat burning and glucose burning mechanisms we have in our body, the better, right? But muscles also are an indication of a healthy factor, especially as we age, right? If we have a certain amount of muscle, it shows a good general healthy condition. It's excess, it's protein, it's fat burning, it's just generally healthy, right? And we need some, and it shows good bones as well, right? If we're not able to have muscle, then other things are also going to be detrimental, right? We don't have health. if we can't build muscle, then other things are not working well. And if we do have muscle, then other things are working well. So it's a good sign of health to have muscle. And it's just good in general. We need to be active, especially after the meal, especially after grain meal. Like go for that walk, or do some other sort of cardiovascular yoga, whatever exercises, jumping jacks, whatever you feel like. More mild act. You want to get out of breath, so probably walking is probably the best thing. But just in general, some like cardio, hard work. If you do physical activity in your job like I do, that's great. But like push-ups, pull-ups, sit-ups, whatever. Yoga, martial arts, tai chi, all physical activity, qigong. It's all really good. They recommend, like some high intensity activity, like sprinting is one of the things that has come out, has been really beneficial. Like you sprint for, I don't know, as long as you can, and then you rest. You just like, you even like go lay down on your back, and that kind of polarity between really high intensity activity where you're pushing your body, stressing your body, your heart's beating really fast, and then you go to from maximum to zero, from zero to maximum, back to zero again. Like you go lay on your back and recover as quickly as possible. That's supposed to be really good for you, right? So stay active, be active, build muscle. Muscle is good. Muscle is a sign of health. What else? Cold water therapy is extremely important because cold water builds brown fat. Brown fat is full of mitochondria. And basically when you expose yourself to cold water and cold weather in general, your body has to adapt by creating more heat. And that means that it's building its energy infrastructure. It's mitochondria, which creates ATP, which creates heat and energy. That's a sign of health. You need to be able to adapt to the cold. You need to be able to be cold and be okay, and that to have your body create heat normally, regularly, and on demand. That's important for all sorts of immunity. It has many health building effects. For immunity, it's so important. This idea that it's like too in macrobiotics, some people say, oh, it's too young. That's garbage. That's just horrible thinking. It's not too young. It's necessary in order to withstand the pressures of life, to withstand stress. It actually makes you more relaxed because it keeps you calm and cool and de-stresses you, because you can take more pressure, you can take more extremes, you can take more hardship and be okay with it. It's fortifying. It allows you to be stronger, and it's a traditional practice everywhere. We should have cold tolerance, right? I take a cold shower every morning, and I stay in as long as I stay in quite a while. Actually, I do. I'm on 6 full turns, meaning so it's the showers. I take a hot shower, then a cold shower, full cold, and it's beating down in front of me. I'll do the front, the side, the back, the side, back to the front. So that's 1 turn. So I do 6 full turns, and it takes a while, and I'm fully cold at the end. Like it drops my core temperature. I don't let it drop too much, because that's how I gauge like how much I can do. It started with 2, then 3, then 4, then 5. I'm up to 6. I also soak my hands and feet in ice water. I actually put 2 ice trays in there and 3 ice packs, and soak my hands and feet every night. And I do it until the ice melts. And this is just, to build cold tolerance, to build that brown fat, to build that mitochondria, to build more energy. It makes you much more energized, and it gives you a much stronger mental mind frame, a can-do attitude, because there's nothing worse than running through life, dragging your feet, feeling like you just want to give up and die, and that nothing's interesting and you just don't care. Because that's the mentality that happens over time for most people, when they're not reinvigorating themselves, when they're not reinforcing the youth All these things turn back the clock. They make you young, they make you healthy, they make you excited for life. And now I can honestly say I wake up every morning at 5 a.m. I used to wake up earlier, but we need good sleep as well. That's another important factor. Enough sleep every night. So I get up at 5 and I'm ready to go. I'm happy. I'm good. My mood is a-okay. Like, I'm happy to go to work. I'm happy to not go to work. I'm happy to have my day. I do not drag my feet. I have tons of energy. I'm happy to meet people. I'm happy in general. I'm social. I'm sociable. I'm just, my everything has improved. Like, since I made certain switches. You know, the main switch was carb burning versus fat burning. Since I made that dynamic switch, so where I'm burning fat a lot of the time, it's just, and then the cold water. I was already physically active because I knew I had to be, but the cold water and the fat burning, oh, such a revelation. And then cutting out the lectins, also really important. Body rub has been a lifelong practice for me most of my adult life. Rubbing my skin with a hot damp cloth every single morning, full body. I do it. I have the best skin. I have no skin problems. I did have some eczema on my feet that went away with the cold water. It's all gone. My feet are perfect now. So if you have any eczema or psoriasis, do cold water therapy. Ice water, cold water, however you can do it. Get in there. Some people do full cold water baths, full ice baths. I'm not there yet, mostly because I don't want to bathe twice a day, right? And also because I don't have the setup. But once I get the setup, or once I can get access to a cold stream, which is also really ideal, or a cold ocean, I would love to do it, right? So do what you can. You know, water bill is also, a factor. I don't want to drive up the water bill. And I like doing things regularly. So I have my habits, my routines. Do cold shower every morning, cold foot soak, and hand soak every night. I alternate. I'll do my feet until they start to hurt. I'll leave them in there even after they hurt for a while. Then I'll take them out, soak my hands, do the same thing. Then I'll put my feet back in, and then I'll rotate, back and forth like that. Meditation. I've had many years, over a decade, 2 decades. Well, I started in my 20s, so I guess, yeah, like 20 years of meditation, pretty much. Extremely important for everything. I mean, it's been a lifesaver for me. It's really truly helped me process my trauma and my sadness and everything. I'm not a fearful person. I've worked through all of that. I'm not a I don't carry. That's one of the things about meditation is if you really do it, you will work through almost all your fear. And all the negative emotions are fear-based. So if you're talking about grief or sadness or depression or anxiety, it's all fear-based. So you're really depleting your fear reserves when you do meditation. I'm not a sad person. I mean, and don't think of me as uncaring or cold or incompassionate. I was deeply saddened by the loss of my father, but it passed through me, right? I cried readily. I cried easily. I'm not one of these people who has a hard time crying. Other people are. I've witnessed in my family, some family members had a difficult time crying. I'm not going to tell you who, but I don't. It just went right through me. I cried a lot. I was very emotional for a while, but then it left me, and it's like, it's okay. It's not sad when people die. Like, it's sad, you miss them. But it ultimately, objectively, it's okay. It's not a bad thing, right? Death is okay. And I've had a long time to think about it. Decades, in fact, because my brother died when I was 10. He was 12. He was hit by a train. So I was deeply traumatized by that. But I've had over 30 years, 36 years to contemplate death and think about what it really means. In any case, that's a little off topic, but meditate. That's really important. And I think I talked about everything. Last thing was, get good sleep. I go to bed early. I meditate before bed too. I meditate often, but I meditate before bed until I can't meditate anymore. That's signals me that I'm ready for sleep, because I just fall asleep right away when I do that, and I stay asleep. and I have good sleep. I don't have sleep problems. Sometimes I'll wake up at night, but it's usually just once and I go back to sleep. So, nothing's perfect, but generally speaking, that's the way it goes. I have good sleep. I have good everything. My health these days is it's great. Like, I have so much energy. I'm really happy and in general very relaxed, and I generally feel very, very good. If I don't, it's usually because I know I did something and I know what I did, right? So yeah, that's my general talk on health. I'll probably come back and make some other videos on more specific topics around health. I want to drive home the fact that grain is killing macrobiotic people. It's causing cancer, mainly grain, but also fried foods and lack of antioxidants, right? If there's a cancer epidemic in macrobiotics, which there is, it's driven by grains and lack of antioxidants and too much fried foods, which is driven by too much restriction and this obsession with veganism, thinking that animal food's bad and all vegetable food's good, which is ridiculous and stupid and idiotic and all the bad words, and has my full disdain and contentment. And vegans can get mad. I hope you get mad, because that'll help you to do a little more research and think about it a little more deeply. And I hope to provoke you. I'm not trying to insult people for the sake of it. It's for a reason. It gets you to, it moves the energy a bit, gets you to think about things a little bit more. Prove me wrong. Go ahead. I dare you. Prove me wrong. You won't be able to, but go for it. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me how veganism is so wonderful and so great. Do some research, right? Try and find some miserable farm animals that are where they're organic and pasture raised. You're not going to find it, right? Do some research. All right, guys, that's it for now. I don't want to make this too long. It probably is too long already, but yeah, I mean, this is the way it is. Much as I want to make it all about astrology, I really just have to stick with the life force. Spirit guides me. Maybe I'll make a different channel. I don't know what I'm gonna do, but I'm not done with astrology, but I just need to look at health for a while. I'm a whole person. I'm not a part. I'm not I don't just do like, I'm just an astrologer and that's all I am. That's not me. I'm a whole person. So you're getting all of me. In any case, guys, I hope you enjoyed this, and I want everyone to be healthier, and leave a comment, let me know what you think. Vegans, do some research, try and prove me wrong, and all right, have a good day, take care, bye.